So, sort of going back to the AI development stuff,
Mhm.
you before we started recording, you were like, "I don't want to sort of like hype this up." Like, what is what is the experience like right now? Like, what is the I guess workflow like, and how good is the code it's producing? Because as you said, a lot of people have this idea sort of set sort of 2 or 3 years ago, and the exact same thing exists in the art community as well. People have no idea what modern AI art looks like, and people are getting completely tricked by it.
Right. Yeah. So I would say AI now,
Mhm.
it's like having a fairly competent intern.
Mm.
Um, like you're working in an office as a programmer, and then your boss comes and says, "Hey, you're going to get an intern." Um, and if you've ever worked in an office and you've been assigned an intern, you're familiar with the emotional roller coaster that this can be because you don't know what kind of intern you're getting.
Mhm, mhm,
But when you get a good intern, it's really awesome because it's somebody who's like eager and weirdly tireless, um, and just kind of like interested in everything, and they just want to do stuff. That's a great intern, and I really feel like AI agents now are like good interns.
mhm,
Um, and even better than real interns because AI agents don't get tired. They will bang their head against the most mundane bullshit task you give them and smile the whole time,
mhm, mhm,
um, which can be very useful. But they also make dumb mistakes sometimes. Um, they can trick themselves into sort of thought loops.
mhm,
Um, and there's this horrible thing called context compaction, which they all do, which is when the conversation gets too long, then it has to um, sort of compact it. So it just summarizes the conversation you've had thus far and then like starts over with the summary at the top. And uh, that tends to lose a lot of detail in what you've been talking about.
mhm.
It can be very frustrating. Um, but a human being doesn't remember everything that you've talked about either.
Mm.
So I don't know. I feel that there's a lot of parallels to some of the best interns that I've had, um, and it seems to me that this thing is not going to get any worse than this. It's just going to keep improving. This
Mm.
is like the worst it's going to be from now on. So I don't know. I find it exciting. I've always had these big ambitions to build big things,
Mhm,
and I've been held back by my ability to produce the code um and I had some breakthroughs in my life where I was like able to get other people excited to work on the same project with me, and that felt like, wow, I'm really scaling what I want to do with this thing because I'm getting other people excited to work on it together.
mhm, mhm,
Um but this gives me like a different way to do that again to like increase the amount of work that goes into a project that I want to build. Um, but yeah, so centering on AI and their capabilities, I think they are at the point where they are very, very useful if you put in the time to build intuition about what they can do,
mhm,
what kind of flaws they have, what they're bad at, especially,
mhm,
and how to steer them away from bad habits, um, from getting into stupid loops or convincing themselves to spend a bunch of time on something that's going to be fruitless.
mhm,
Um, but I think the big mistake that people are making is that they don't see that in order to build all this intuition, you have to play with it.
mm,
Um, you have to go back to that like person you were when you discovered programming, when you first made it say hello world or like you know 10 print fart 20 go to 10 or whatever. um when that kind of thing made you excited,
mm,
and come into it with that kind of energy, like, okay, what can I make this thing do? um just as an example, like something that I built just to understand it better was like this food logging app where I can log the food that I eat throughout the day.
Hmm.
Because I've been using those kind of things for years, and they always make you like type in what you ate. And I thought it would be nice if I could just say what I ate.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just sort of vibe coded a mobile app that lets me say what I ate, and then it uses voice to text to figure out what I mean, and then logs the calories and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And pure play, like no intention of trying to sell this to anybody or share it with somebody. Um, and that exercise taught me so much about like what can this thing do, um, what does it suck at, um, and I think everyone who hasn't gone through the exercise of just like spending a weekend building a dumb app,
Hmm.
um, I strongly recommend spending a weekend building a dumb app. Um, because if you can set aside your sort of prejudices about AI, what it is or what it should be, or whatever, we're doomed, we're not doomed, this is the future, whatever. All assumptions, just set them aside and just like mess around with it and play and like do something fun. Like maybe you always wanted to build a game. Like
Hmm.
so many people got into programming because they wanted to make a game, and then they end up writing like crud web apps instead. Uh,
Yeah.
and you and you totally forgot about that game you wanted to make.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yep.
spend a weekend building that game.
Hmm.
Like the rate of progress you can make on something like that now is crazy. So yeah. Anyway, that's my pitch. Just play with it.
Hmm. No, I think that's I think it's a good way to put it. Like, if you're going to be critical of something, I think you need to know the current state of things. I think that's not just the case with AI, that's the case with everything. A lot of people
Hmm.
tend to be they tend to be like, whether it be Rust or you want to talk about Wayland on Linux or any of these things. A lot of people don't necessarily know the current state of it. Or like, NVIDIA
Yeah.
drivers on Linux as well. It's another good example. I think it's important to know, especially if you don't like something, what it currently is capable of, what it is currently like, because otherwise, well, you're hating something that doesn't exist. You're hating a phantom, and there's nothing productive there, right? You're just making yourself angry over something that's not even real at that point.
Right. And you're not convincing anybody
Mhm.
when you
Yeah,
come
well,
from that kind of
especially when
place,
it's
I
it's
think.
so easy to go and test, right?
Right. And I will say I make this mistake sometimes too.
Mhm.
Just the other day, I caught myself talking shit about KDE, even though I haven't used KDE for like 20 years. I was like, oh, they have too many settings for everything in KDE.
Well,
Like, I don't know. I haven't used KDE
I
since
used
like
KDE like an
4.0.
hour ago. Like, yeah, they do.
Okay, maybe it's
But
still
look,
like that. I don't know.
I like KDE. I like KDE, but like I get it. I understand that sort of criticism. But anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, point being though, like I think we all make mistakes and,
Mm,
and we can be silly about things like this, but it's good to catch yourself, and say like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know. I have these assumptions about this, but they're probably kind of outdated. I
mm,
should update them. I should refresh them.
right, right.
Um, and yeah, and I think if we are being intellectually honest, we can see where the industry is heading and we can see what is happening to the profession once known as computer programmer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because w- whatever we would like it to be, the people who pay us to work on code um, are going to make their calculations and they're going to make their decisions based on new assumptions that are being updated. And yeah, things are changing. Um, and I don't make a value judgment on like, is it for the better? Is it for the worse? It's like everybody has their own sort of perspectives on that. But I think we have to accept that they are changing
Mhm,
and
mhm.
staying informed and aware of what the state of the art um, is the bare minimum, I think, that we need to be aiming for.
Yeah, I did wanna sort of talk a bit about industry implications there, because you said it's kinda like a good intern, and if I'm a corporate manager, what I hear there is, "Why do I need the interns? I can just give the senior developers these tools, and then I don't have to deal with the interns." And that's fine if one company does it, but if that becomes an industry trend, how do you then train up your new junior developers to become those seniors? And where does that go, right?
Yeah, I
Assuming
wish I
things
knew.
stay exactly where they are and it doesn't improve anymore.
Right. I don't know. It's a very interesting question. I've heard from people who work at various companies, and they are basically having exactly this thought process that you just described.
Mhm,
And I think, we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of quote unquote AI layoffs in the future as companies, middle managers realize exactly what you described. What do we do to sort of train the next generation of programmers? I don't know. That's a little bit scary, a little bit sad. It feels like the bar for entry just got yoinked up along with our own abstraction level that we get to work at.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but at the same time, like you look at other fields. So I have like siblings who are doctors, and they spent so many years in school
mhm.
to learn this. Um, Maybe that's what ends up happening to programming is that you just have to spend a ton more time learning it, and like learning all kinds of fundamentals and studying them in new ways. I don't know. Or maybe it becomes like a thing where you just start using these tools very early in life and build intuition about how to use them, and maybe the kids who pick up AI programming today will like completely dominate in a couple of years
Mhm.
and without any kind of formal training. I don't know.
I know
Um,
people who work in education, and all their students are like using AI to some extent. And I don't know, like if you're let's say that you're just entering school, you're 5, 6 years old, what are things gonna be like in 13 years when you're graduating as like out of high school, right? No one really knows the like where we can sort of like make these ideas, but nobody 4 years ago would have thought we'd be where we're at now. And
yeah.
I don't like. Do things slow down? Possibly. Do they like? Do we hit a point where these tools become like maybe low level or competent senior developers? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's sort of a disservice to assume. I've seen this sort of floating around like AI's never gonna be at. It's there's always like a goalpost. It's never gonna hit this point. It's never gonna hit this point, and then it keeps hitting these points. I don't think it
Yeah.
is a good assumption to make that we are never going to cross any further arbitrary threshold. I think it is the safe assumption, if you are critical of this tech, is assume that your worst possible fears are going to happen, or if you're a corporate manager, your best possible dreams, depending where you're coming from. And that's sort of where you need to analyze the future of this tech from, because that seems to be the direction. So how do you deal with that? What do you do with that?
Yeah, indeed. Um, I mean, if I look at my childhood, which was mid '90s, um, going to elementary school and stuff in the early '90s, certainly couldn't have told you then what was going to happen in the next 10, 15 years.
Mhm.
Um, like, m- I was like the one kid in my class who had a computer at home. So times have changed,
Mhm.
I think. Um, yeah, I mean, no, it's a scary and also very interesting time.
Mhm.
Um, and I like it.
Mm.
I like that stuff's really changing. It's happening. New technology coming out all the time. To me, this is fun. Like it's chaotic, and who knows if anybody will pay us to do any of this 5 years from now. But I don't know. It's just it's cool.
Mm.
I always thought new tech is cool.
Mm.
And it goes back to the thing I was saying. Like when you're excited about Hello World coming up on your screen, then I think you can take this kind of thing in better than if you just sort of shut yourself in and say like, oh well, everything should stay the way it is because that's what I've learned, and
Mhm.
this is the world as I understand it, and it should stay this way now because that's more comfortable for me.
Mhm.
Um, but that's also not very exciting.
I guess that's
Yeah,
a positive way to look at it, I guess.
I admit I am slightly pathologically positive. I can't help myself. Um, Life is nice, and it's fun to work with computers.
Yeah, yeah.
I find it hard to be negative about the whole thing.
Well, I think, like, at the end of the day, you're not changing the industry course, right? Like, you by yourself are not gonna revert everything that's happening. No matter how much you, like, cry about AI, like, it's not gonna stop, right? We can talk about there
Yeah.
being a bubble, and there is absolutely a bubble, but the dot-com bubble was also a bubble as well, and Amazon lost, what, 99% of their value because nobody knew what the web could do at the time. And people were doing stupid shit with the web. You just put .com in your name, you just went up in value. And that was happening with AI for a while where, Taco Bell AI drive-thrus, and then people started ordering 10,000 water cups, and they realized, oh, that's a bad idea. So there is obviously you can call it a bubble, but also what it is, we were just exploring with this tech, right? It's what can we do with it? Where does it make sense? And people are just, especially if you're in corporate and you are seeing this hype around it, you're just injecting it into everything just to
Yeah.
see what you can extract value from. And if you're in corporate, that is sort of your entire objective.